competition standpoint.
Right.
How do you feel like the guys responded to last week, and what did you learn about the team?
No, we made significant progress. I mean, I think that anytime you're approaching that second scrimmage, you come out of that second scrimmage like we've discussed, that's a critical window. You're in the middle of training camp, and there's not necessarily a light at the end of the tunnel, right? So how well your team handles that, I think, is important. And things have shaked out to some degree. But I go back to kind of what we discussed many times. I think we have a core group of players here that'll be week to week. How much are they going to get an opportunity to play? We've got a core group of veterans, but I think there's a lot of players on our team that what percentage of the snaps that they play relative to their position is going to be based off of their performance. Meetings, walkthrough, practice, self-discipline off the field, all these things that contribute to those decisions. So I think you'll see quite a bit of that throughout the season. This week will be no different.
And then you guys took your team photo this week, and could you see the ratio between the staff and players in that picture? What's it like to see that come together, and what does that mean to kind of see that presented in a picture?
Well, I think we try to make a concerted effort to involve everyone in the team photo, including all of our student workers, all the people that contribute to some degree to our operation. So I think maybe that's got inflated a little bit out there, but I am excited about the infrastructure that we have, and that's made up of a lot of different components, right? Obviously the players, but leadership in each area of the organization, right? Full-time employees, right? We also have, I think, about 85 undergraduates that contribute to our team as well, right? In the equipment room, video, training room, personnel, OCR, and strategy, right? We're calling that group the G unit, right? We had about 85 of them in here last night. We had a kind of an appreciation dinner that Wawa supported and provided the food for us. So, it takes a team. It truly takes hundreds of people to put a good product out there on game day. And I think we want each person to take pride in their role, realize they can make an impact, and they may very well be the difference. So I think the team photo is a reflection of that.
So you saw a reaction to it?
I've had many people tell me about that, yeah.
I was wondering.
You see some of the old pics too.
My brother sent me a picture. I guess they photoshopped, like 3 or 4 of the staff members on top of it, right? So my brother sent me that one, so I got a laugh out of that.
Building off of the team photos, Coach Billy wrote out a tweet saying like you guys had 5 former high school head coaches on staff. What does that mean as far as recruiting in-state and building those relationships to have those guys on your staff?
Yeah, no, I think it's a big part of what we do is having a pulse for that landscape, right? What is that like? What are the things that they run into? How can we be a resource for high school coaches in the state? What things do we need to do behind the scenes to help? In terms of, there's a lot of areas where we've heard opinions about things that can be improved within the state for the high school coaches. So I think that that's a pretty common strategy, but I also think that we've got really good people in those. We hope to continue to do that. Some of the rules slow that down to some degree, but we found some different avenues there that's giving us an opportunity to hire some of those guys. So I think it's a positive, and we'll continue to use that in the future.
Billy, we had talked about the 2 deep on your offensive line. Would you talk about the 2 deep of the whole roster? I mean, you got 44 positions when you count your punter and your place kicker in there. Are you 48? Excuse me. Are you seeing what you need to go forward here, or a little thin? Do you think?
No, I think like I said before, I've always felt kind of like going into after spring. I would say we got 1.5 units. If that makes sense. but I do believe that we've made progress, right? I think we've got players that have proven over time that they are loyal, that we can we see consistency from them, right? They are responsible, they are dependable. We need more players that can play winning football. I think we have some that are in the middle of that process, but I do think that we've developed some players, right, that maybe have not played a significant role for the Gators in the past. You know, a few off the top of my head would be Tyreek Sapp, Austin Barber. You know, those are two in particular that stand out to me that I think are, you know, they're starters in my mind. They might not be a starter. They may or may not be a starter on game day, but they're going to play, you know. There are other players that I think fit into that, right? I mean, some of the rookies that fit in that category, right? Shamar James is an exceptional player, right? There's a number of young players that I think their role will grow as we, you know, continue to compete. But, you know, we've developed some of the players on our team that have minimal experience, and I think they're ready for the show. Now, how are they going to prepare, you know, the week of the game or 10 days out from the game? You know, we officially turned the page today. So I think that development in football, sometimes you got to go out there and learn. You know, I mean, you think you understand what it's going to be like out there, you know, to play in a game setting. But I think that's one of the exciting things to me about this team is we got a lot of players that have minimal experience that I think are going to grow as the season goes.
What's Ricky's progress been and Jason's, and also what is the schedule going forward?
No, I think we are very pleased with what we saw yesterday. I think both those guys, we anticipate them kind of making incremental progress in terms of the volume of work that they're taking on each day going forward. So I feel really good about both those guys.
In terms of the schedule, though, you said Utah turning the page. Can you just kind of dig in a little bit on what the plan is?
Oh, yeah.
Leading up to
Yeah, we're going to try to recreate some of the workflow for each individual day, if that makes sense. Today being a Monday, right? So everybody in the organization is trying to execute Monday today, even though it's Wednesday, right? Tomorrow's Tuesday, Saturday's Thursday, right? We'll just try to, those nuts and bolts days relative to a game week, we want to have a little bit of a trial run for all the new people in the building, which obviously with this group of players and this staff, this is the first time. So, but even going forward, much like we've discussed in the past, 25 or 30% of the building is new every year. So we'll always do this before the opener.
You talked about rookies. There's been some talk that Caleb Douglas, it has just moved way up on the rotation in the wide receivers. Did you talk about him?
No, I think Caleb in particular showed he flashed in the scrimmage the other day, made some plays. Caleb's a former quarterback. You know, this is a guy who kind of early in his junior year started playing that receiver position, right? So I think we're excited about his upside. You know, this guy's 6'3", maybe it's some change. He weighs close to 200 pounds. He's got some unique traits, I think, the things that are required to play receiver. So he's a developmental player that I think is making progress.
Time for just a few more, guys. How do you feel like your team showed up in terms of physicality during camp? Do you feel like you have that kind of team going into preparation week for Utah?
No, I think our practice environment requires that. You know, how sharp is the sword? You know, I think we'll find out when we get to the season, we start playing games, you know, but ultimately you want to try to go into the season ready to go, you know, and I think there's a fine line in there between managing those things, right? So I think that's one of the areas where we made progress. We can have a very physical practice environment, but we're also able to stay off the ground, keep the roster healthy. I think that's an important piece. That's a really good question going to the opener. And, you know, I don't know that you know until you get out there and you start putting the ball down and playing. But we've made progress in terms of how to practice.
We mentioned Tyreek's office the other day. Thank you very much. We noticed this red Hulk statue.
Yes. Thank you.
What the story is.
Yes.
Rick is showing people my office without asking me, it sounds like here. So, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there. That's first of all, there's lots of things in that office that probably, I don't know if we're going to stay in the office.
Keep that.
Yeah. So that is a gift, right? So that was the first year we were at Louisiana. We played in the bowl game at Universal Studios, right? So they had, you know, you have the Marvel section of the park or whatever, and an investor in the program that shows up at my door, like, you know, a few weeks after the game. I'm okay. But the story behind that is really Louisiana Raging Cajun. We didn't have a mascot, right? So that was always my running joke was like, that's a Raging Cajun, right? So the guy, you know, we never made any progress there, but, you know, if you were describing a Raging Cajun, I would say that's what one looks like, right? So,
We'll go
yeah.
to Graham Hall here. You mentioned Tyreek Sapp. How would you compare the defensive line rotation and the competition there, maybe since you got here, and how critical could that getting Sharif Floyd back be to the overall development of the unit?
Yeah, no, I think, you know, that group that's one of the areas where we have some inexperienced players that I think have made progress. You know, Sapp, Boone, Princely, maybe, you know, there's a handful of guys there that how much have they really played, you know, in a game when it counts, right? So those guys needed to make progress. I think they have made progress, and I do believe that they're going to continue to improve, right? They're nowhere near, you know, I think where they're going. But I think all those guys have improved. Tyreek in particular, Princely also has really impressed me. But there's a lot of examples. Like when you look at the participation chart, we got a lot of players that are going to be playing that hadn't played much in games before, right? So I think those are guys that are examples of that. You know, Sharif obviously did an internship with the Cowboys. He's back. School started today, so he's been back the last couple of days. And Sharif's been nothing but first class since I've been here. He's back earning his degree. Got a bright future, I think, in football. And, you know, as an exceptional player, I think he's got character. I think he understands the big picture, takes pride in his role, and certainly him being able to coach on the field, I think is an advantage for our players. This guy's a first-round pick. You know, he played a number of years in the league and has a good understanding of the fundamentals of that position. So he'll play a critical role in the practice format going forward, starting tomorrow.
We'll close with Alan.
I'll cheat, two-parter. Trevor Etienne, his ability to play as a freshman may be comparable to what you saw in Montreal last year. And secondly, with this staff and the way you are prepared, 10 days out, have you ever felt as good about at least the preparation of a season opener? Because obviously you didn't have the same resources at other places, probably even at Alabama for sheer numbers.
Well, I seriously doubt that. I was joking with the ops guy there. I said, hey, you guys just hide them all in the building on team photo day. You know, I think that, yeah, I mean, I've felt a lot better about being prepared for openers. You know, I mean, heck, we were at the same place for 4 years. I mean, we got pretty good at it. This is a new place with a new staff and a new group of people, so I don't necessarily know that's very answerable. I'll tell you after the game's over. How about we can agree to that? What was the first part again?
Trevor's development.
Yeah.
As a freshman.
I've been very pleased with Trevor. You know, there's no question we made a good decision there. Great, you know, was familiar with him, having evaluated him at Louisiana. You know, the guy's, you know, 5'8"3/4. He weighs, you know, 207 pounds. You know, he's loose. He's got a low center of gravity, catches the ball well. I think he's got some returner value. So the big thing with him is his character, his consistency. The guy shows up and works, man. He's got a little bit ahead of the game there, I think, because of his brother's experience there. So, you know, he's from Jennings, Louisiana, man. You know, the guy shows up here, he's like he's in New York City. So, I mean, he is a worker. He's got a great attitude. He's got a little sense of humor. I like him. And I think he's got a chance to be a good player for the Gators. So we've got 4 backs that we have confidence in. You know, all have character. All are very consistent. They all care. They're all very smart and understand what to do. So Coach DeLuke, can't compliment him enough. I think he's always got his group ready to go. And those guys I'm excited to watch them play.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Today.
All right, guys.